Hello and welcome to At Its Pace. Mark, when was the last time that we did this? It's been a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, we hope that you are enjoying your spring and that life is moving as smoothly as it can for you. Today on Marriage Minutes, we are going to talk about heart check. How do you check on your spouse when you know that they are suffering internally? So, this is a topic that I'm sure many of you all are experiencing because of all the stuff that we are dealing with in life. It just seems like day after day after day, things are happening. And so, one of the things that I like to do in terms of watching over my husband and making sure that he's okay is to just study him and study what's going on in his life. He's pretty much a quiet guy most of the time, but there's a different kind of quiet that occurs when he is suffering. And so I guess the first thing that I want to say is that I study his quiet. And it happened even just this morning. I could tell that he was having some quiet time, just sitting there thinking, but it wasn't necessarily just an easy thinking. It was some deep introspective thought. So I just reached out, said, "Hey, you doing okay?" I just want him to know that I'm here, because a lot of times it's not that he wants to talk, but I just want him to know that he's not alone. And so that's one of the things that I do. I study his quiet. What do you do when I'm suffering, honey?
Well, my wife is not a quiet person, and so I can tell when she's becoming agitated, and I kind of know the source of that agitation. And so she just started a new job, and so with that comes different responsibilities and different roles. And as those roles and responsibilities are being defined in terms of leadership and falling in place, things don't always run smoothly. And so a lot of frustration that may come up from work, I tend to hear it, and she may say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And so I could hear it in her voice, and then just by her expressing a willingness to really need to get something off her chest. And then sometimes she just say, "Hey, I need to talk to somebody." And we are firm believers in counseling, having gone through counseling for a number of years for some different issues within our marriage. But she mentioned, "Hey, I think I need to talk to somebody." And so that kind of gives me a clue that, one, I need to increase my prayer life. And then two, I need to support her as she seeks to get that outlet or find that place in which she can examine herself internally and then be able to communicate that to somebody that she feels comfortable with.
Yeah. So I think it's important to know yourself, to thine own self be true, as the saying goes. And I think it's important for you to study your spouse and to know, just like Mark said, I know when she's agitated. I know the level or the octave that she gets to when she's agitated. I also think it's important to know when you just need to be a sounding board or when you need to be the person who gives advice, because a lot of times your spouse just wants to be heard. It's not necessarily that you want them to solve the problem. They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to decipher that. And if you don't know how to decipher it, I think it's okay to say, "All right, do you need me to just listen right now? Or do you need me to offer some advice?" I think that's really important, because especially as women, sometimes we just need to get it out. And as we are talking, we will come up with the best solution, but it comes through that talking. And I know that men are not necessarily like that. They're more introspective. Depends on your spouse, but you have to, the bottom line is, study your spouse, know their nuances. You ought to be able to know, you ought to be able to feel your spouse's emotional pulse and determine something's not right, something's off. His temperature, his emotional temperature is gone cold. His emotional temperature has gone hot. And I think Mark hit it on the head. This is a time for you to pray. Not a time for you to get angry. Not a time for you to say, "He cheating on me. He about to go spend all the money." It's a time to pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give you guidance and peace about how to support your spouse.
And then sometimes just asking those very simple but yet probing questions. You know, if there's a certain method to how your spouse operates in the house and that method is kind of off, you kind of, you know, like I said, study your spouse and you know, hey, how's work going? Hey, how's the fellas doing? Hey, how's your family doing? Your mom, your dad, or whatever the case may be. Life is throwing fastballs. It's baseball season. Life is throwing things at couples and at marriages left and right, from raising children during this time to pandemic to getting vaccinated to just dealing with the stressors of this being such a long period of time in which we have been somewhat sheltered. Uh, it's difficult. And so the mental stability and the mental health of your spouse and of yourself is so important. And so it's always good just to do that check.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, one of the things that I think is important is to study your spouse.
Study your
The
spouse.
second thing that's important to do is study your spouse. The third thing that's important to do
I know what it is. Study your spouse.
Study your spouse and pray about it. And then at the end of the day, I really want to encourage you all to increase your collective or your corporate prayer. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out type of thing. We are going through and we need help and we need each other. We need to be able to lean on one another. But most importantly, in this time, if you don't have God to lean on, I don't know how you make it through this. I really and truly don't. And I'm not trying to force Christianity down somebody's throat, but I just don't know where I would be without my faith and then without the faith that I know that my husband has. So I encourage you, do your own heart check. Let your husband and your spouse do their heart check. Pray about the heart check. And make sure that with, what does the Bible say? Guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it comes the abundance of life.
What I used to say? Oh, be well, be blessed. Deuces.